kind of breaking down all these. I want to give the listeners out there, the Press Cover Sports, first 2 rounds of the perfect bracket this year. Okay?
I got one word of advice to everyone filling out their brackets today, tomorrow, Thursday morning, whatever it may be. I don't remember where I heard it, but it sounds like such sage advice, and everyone should go through a bracket looking at it with this way. Have 2 number 1s, a number 2, and then a wild card. Any seed that you feel might get hot. That's what makes the Final Four on a more consistent basis. They did like the last 30 years of brackets, and it's predominantly, not every single time, but 2 number 1s will get there, meaning 2 number 1s will not get there. A number 2, that's a really good team, will get to the Final Four, and then always a random, a 6 seed, a 5 seed, sometimes an 11 seed, sometimes a 10 seed, all over the place. Pick a wild card, and that would be good advice when you're filling out your brackets.
Yeah, that is great advice. That's great advice. The 2 number 1s, definitely, right? It's tough, though. Sometimes, I'm filling them out. I'm like, man, when are these number 1s going to lose? And I'm almost looking for the game that they're going to lose instead of the games they're going to win.
Yeah.
So I have tough times doing that. And then another interesting stat before we get into this that you might want to think about is there's been twice that teams playing in these first 4 in games that are going on right now while we're recording it have made it all the way to the Elite 8. Like, these guys come in, they catch fire, and they play good. So I'm going to give you my first 4 in that I would look to make a run possibly, and I'm going with the Pittsburgh Panthers, all right? I know that's going to be tough against Mississippi State, so I think they're going to crawl and grind a victory out of there in Dayton, Ohio, and they're going to scrape their way into it and get down there to Greensboro, North Carolina, and they're going to play some ball. So I'm going with Pitt, and I'm looking for them to possibly make a run. Seeing Xavier in the second round, not that great of a matchup, but they do play similar styles. And like I said, Xavier's coming in on like a 5-5 over the last 10, so it could happen. So I really like Pitt as a first 4 in to have a chance of making a run.
No, I mean, they can get in, but I got Iowa State winning that game. It's really hard to pick these. The one that I'm going with is Arizona State. Got to give Pac-12 a little bit of love here. They're going against Nevada, Mountain West love in that play-in tournament, and then I have Arizona State actually upsetting TCU in that first-round matchup.
Okay, I mean, TCU's a tough opponent for them, but I do like Arizona State. I think the Pac-12 was a lot tougher than people give them credit for. Not a whole lot of Pac-12 love in the seeding here that made the tournament, but I do think that it was actually a pretty tough conference this year from the bottom up.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Right? So we're going to start at the South. We're only going to give you the first and second rounds because who knows, this bracket might be absolutely trashed by the next episode. So next episode...
Mine will be, just know that.
So we'll start fresh with the actual Sweet 16 next year, or next episode next week. So we're going to give you the first 2 rounds. Go ahead, cheat off of me, get a perfect first and second round here. So hopefully you can take Warren Buffett's money if you happen to work for him.
$1 billion.
I always love that he offers that $1 billion for the perfect bracket, but nobody's got there yet. But who knows? Maybe this year, Buffett. Alabama versus Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, I think that is, and Southeast Missouri or Montana. It doesn't matter. They can probably take the best players off of both of those teams, put them together. No chance against Alabama. Roll Tide. Alabama's moving on. Maryland versus West Virginia. I love Bob Huggins. He is my boy, one of my favorite coaches of all time. I put him in the category of Mike Leach. He's the Mike Leach of college basketball, if you ask me. He's been kind of a journeyman, but he always has success, and he's always got a gritty, tough team. They play full court press. They put the pressure on you. I watched Maryland lose to Rutgers twice this year. I don't think they got the heart or the stones to be able to hang with West Virginia in that full court press all game long. I'm going Huggy Bear and West Virginia. San Diego State, we already touched on it. Charleston can play ball. Look at the record, the 31-3, right? That's where these 12 seeds come from. Who the hell is that, 31-3? That's a good team, okay? I don't care what conference you play in. You go 31-3 and win. Like, they got in because they won their conference championship, too. So, Charleston is coming in hot. They're ready to play. San Diego State gets it done with defense, but I think it's a little bit closer than some people down in the Aztec land would want it to be.
Yep.
SDSU moves on. Virginia Furman. Virginia barely makes enough plays. This one is scary. This one I can smell upset, but it doesn't make me that nervous because I actually don't have Virginia passing next round. We'll get into that in a second. Creighton versus NC State. I'm going with Creighton. Baylor versus the Gauchos. I want to root for the Gauchos, man, but I think the Baylor Bears just got too much talent. But I'll be rooting Gauchos in that game, but I'm picking Baylor to move on and get my 1 point on the board. Missouri, Utah State. I don't really know too much about either one of these teams. I know SEC was a tough conference this year, so by default, I'm going Missouri. Arizona, Princeton. I love Princeton. I'm a Jersey boy. I'm going Arizona. Sorry, Princeton.
Fair.
The 15-2s, I feel like the story of the upset is out on those, especially after St. Peter's run last year and things like that. So I think they're not going to catch them off guard, although Princeton is a good team. Moving on to the next round, round 2. Bama versus West Virginia. I'm going Bama. SDSU versus Virginia. I'm going SDSU. Creighton versus Baylor. I'm going Creighton. Missouri versus Arizona. I'm going Arizona.
We actually have the same Sweet 16, Bama, San Diego State, Creighton, and Arizona. I'm going with the upset. Furman, a 13 seed, is upsetting slow-ass, boring-ass team in Virginia. We've seen what is the only number 1 seed to ever lose, the Virginia Cavaliers. So we've seen them
Golden Retrievers of Baltimore, Maryland, baby.
We've seen them blow these type of games in the tournament. I got Furman over Virginia. The rest of it, I'm pretty chalk right there along with you. Baylor, Missouri, Creighton, Arizona.
Okay, I like it. Moving on down to the East in your brackets if you're listening at home. We got Purdue taking over against Texas Southern or FDU. I don't care which teams make it. Again, same thing goes with Bama. They're gonna roll. They're not gonna have any answer for Zach Edey. He's gonna eat in the paint all day long. Memphis, Florida Atlantic. I love Penny Hardaway. I would like them even more if they lost last week. I feel like they're going to be riding too high on that Houston win. They just won themselves
momentum. You got to ride that wave.
They won themselves a conference championship. They might be spending too much time patting themselves on the back. I'm going Florida Atlantic. Duke versus Oral Roberts. I think Duke's the hottest team in the field right now. They're playing absolutely lights out. I'd be scared to play the Dukies right now. I'm going Duke over Oral Roberts.
Good call.
Tennessee versus Louisiana. Tennessee's down a superstar player. Please make sure you do your homework. They are not the same team right now. They are ranked way too high as a 4 seed without having their star guard on the team anymore. He's the heart and soul of the team. And I don't remember his name exactly, so I don't want to butcher it right now. But I'm going Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns to rage on. Next game, Kentucky and Providence. Tough game, man. Tough game. I love Kentucky. I'll give you a little inside with this pick. I am a Kentucky homer right here. I root for them. So
I'm a Duke homer, so we each got the blue.
Yeah. So I'm going Kentucky to beat Providence, but it's going to be a tough game, and I think it's going to actually propel them by winning this game because they're going to be really battle tested in this game, and they're going to be ready for that next game on Saturday or Sunday. Next up, Kansas State, Montana State. I have no faith in Kansas State, but I just don't know anything about Montana State, so I'm picking Kansas State. USC versus Michigan State. Fight on, Trojans.
Big matchup there. That's
big matchup.
2 heavyweight schools in both football and basketball.
Nostalgia right there. And I hate going against Michigan State and Coach, what's his name?
Tom Izzo.
Tom Izzo. I don't know why I want to call him Zizzo. But yeah, Tom Izzo. He always finds a way to get it done. So I'm not a whole lot of faith in USC, but I'm rooting for him, so I'm going USC. And then I think Marquette handles Vermont no problem. So moving on from there, now we're ended up with Purdue and Florida Atlantic. I'm going Purdue. Duke, Louisiana. I'm going Duke. Kentucky, Kansas State. I'm going Kentucky. USC, Marquette. I'm going Marquette. So that puts Purdue, Duke, Kentucky, and Marquette into my Sweet 16.
All right, I'm a little wild here. Number 1 seeds, they lose. It happens. We all know this. Purdue is going to lose to Memphis and the Fighting Penny Hardaways. And Kentucky's not going to make it. I got Kansas State. They're probably the best resume out of the teams in that bracket. So I like Kansas State, Marquette, Duke, and Memphis.
Memphis has no answer for Edey, dude. Edey is
we'll
going to
see what happens. It's a 40-minute game. We know it's going to come down to a wire. Our guy is going to hit a buzzer beater. We're all going to be like, damn, that happened.
I've seen enough madness to know that I can't actually give you a legit knock for that pick. So now moving on to your Midwest bracket. Houston versus Northern Kentucky. I'm going Houston. Iowa versus Auburn. I'm going Iowa. That is a good matchup.
I like that.
Drake, Miami. We both already gave our hand on Drake. Indiana, Kent State. I'm going with Indiana. The one thing I like about Drake, though, on defense, they play defense, bro. They're only giving up 63.9 points on the season, and they're just well balanced. I don't think Miami's going to be ready for that D. And then they also have a balanced offensive attack, like I said. They even held Gonzaga, I think, to 64 points. So holding a true blue blood of the tournament to your average on the season. They lost the game, but granted, they still were able to do what they needed to do on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going Drake over Miami, Indiana over Kent State. Pittsburgh, I think, will beat Mississippi State tonight, and then they will beat Iowa State in the first round.
Oh, wow.
Iowa State is a good team, but they were only good in Ames. Only good in Ames. Anywhere else, they looked like a shell of themselves. They're like the Golden State Warriors of college basketball this year. They look lights out at home. They look like trash on the road. Next up, Xavier, Kennesaw State. I actually like Kennesaw State, but I'm going Xavier. Texas A&M, Penn State. I'm going Texas A&M. Texas versus Colgate. This is going to be the one to watch. If there's a 15-2 upset out there, this is
the Fighting
it.
Toothpaste?
The Fighting Toothpaste have the best offense. I'm telling you, it's going to be the one game you want to watch.
Wow.
They are up and down the court, bro. They're like, you would think Mike D'Antoni's their coach.
Oh, yeah.
They're like that kind of team. Get a shot
Have
up
you
and like
really watched Colgate games this year? Come on.
I'm learning about them, right? I'm learning about them, doing my homework.
Did your prep?
Right?
What a
yeah, and I remember them from last year's tournament with the same MO and the same book, and they played tough as a 15 seed last year too, so they're used to this role.
Yeah.
So Texas and Colgate, that's going to be a potential upset, and especially Texas riding high off of beating Kansas, winning the Big 12, another thing where they might be patting themselves on the back a little too much. Moving on, now we got Houston versus Iowa in the round of 32. I'm going Houston over Iowa, but that's going to be a tough game. Drake versus Indiana. Ride on, Drake. Ride on, Drake, into this Sweet 16. Pitt versus Xavier. Going to be a tough game for Xavier. They pull it out. Texas A&M versus Texas. Let's get a little in-state rivalry going and ride on TAMU to the Sweet 16.
Oh, wow.
I got Texas A&M beating Texas, moving on Sweet 16. So for the Midwest, I got Houston, Drake, Xavier, and Texas A&M.
Very similar to mine. The only difference is I got the Longhorns coming away victorious in that one.
Okay.
And I do like the Auburn slight upset 9-8 against Iowa. Shout out to Charles Barkley.
Yeah, I can see Barkley's alum getting it done, and Bruce Pearl too. I love Bruce Pearl as a coach, so he's going to have them boys ready to play. Moving down to the West, Kansas versus Howard, easy Kansas. Arkansas versus Illinois. This one I'm all over the place. I don't know where I'm going to get the point from, but I'm going to Illinois on this one. St. Mary's VCU. I like VCU, but I think St. Mary's pulls it off. UConn versus Rick Pitino. I am going Iona. I'm going Iona to beat UConn. Another classic Rick Pitino team. They play tough defense, full court press on you all game long. They're one of 4 teams in the nation to have 4 players averaging 15 points per game, so it's tough to strategize against them. You can't just say, hey, stop that guy. And then they also had the player of the year in their conference. I don't have his name on the top of my head, but he led the conference and set the record for three-point percentage at like 48%. Guys lights out, so 3-and-D all the way. Rick Pitino beats a UConn team that's been all over the place this season. They've looked all world. They spent some time at number 1 actually earlier in the year, and then they crashed out of the top 25 to scrape
How many
their way
teams
back
were number 1 this year? Was it double digits?
Yeah, it was like 11 or 12. So
That's
it's kind of all
crazy.
over the place. So definitely that makes for a fun tournament, I think.
Yes.
So TCU versus what you would say Arizona State. I say it doesn't matter. TCU rolls on. Gonzaga versus Grand Canyon. Give me a break with that one. Gonzaga all day long. This one I'm on the fence. Northwestern, Boise State went back and forth. I went with Northwestern. Don't think it really matters because I got UCLA coming into that round pretty hot and tough to beat. So starting back at the top, now we have Kansas and Illinois going Kansas. Now I got St. Mary's and Iona. I'm going Rick Pitino gets another school into the Sweet 16. Ricky's back, baby. No Adidas scandal needed. He's doing it all legit at Iona. If you don't know about him, better ask somebody. Rick Pitino's back, baby. Iona takes out St. Mary's. TCU versus the Zags. I go the Zags get into the Sweet 16. And then Northwestern versus UCLA. I am going UCLA. I think the Bruins are dangerous. I can't wait to see a matchup of Gonzaga versus UCLA in the Sweet 16.
We've seen it before. The Final Fours and the Elite Eights. Everyone remembers Adam Morrison crying in his jersey. One of the highlights of my early days loving March Madness. But UCLA was a 3-point shot clinging off the back rim away from being the number 1 overall seed. They were the number 2 team in the nation going into conference tournament week. They were in the Pac-12 championship. They lose on a last-second play to Arizona, and they were this close to winning that. Point being, they were the best number 2 seed. UCLA is definitely in there. Love the matchup against the Zags. I have St. Mary's, another California school, getting into the Sweet 16, as well as the number 1 seed Kansas hanging on.
All right, I mean, we're pretty much there. The only difference is I have Iona, and I think you have...
No, same.
Yeah, no, basically, you have Iona too?
No, I have St. Mary's in that one.
Okay, St. Mary's in that one, but yeah, we're basically exactly the same, except for K-State. You got Kansas State beating Kentucky.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll see how that works out. Thank you guys for listening to our randomness picks, and we hopefully it works out for us. If not, we'll be back next week with a perfect Sweet 16 coming for you. But in the meantime, even with March Madness going on, let's be real, sports fans. The NFL is undefeated. This is being shot in the midst of NFL free agency frenzy. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. The Bengals have lost both their safeties.